everybody, today we're going to talk about decimals. So in lesson 3, the lesson focuses on representing mixed numbers with units of tens, ones, and tenths with place value discs on a number line and in expanded form. So there's a couple of things that we really need to know in order to do this homework. So the first thing is to know our place value chart. So we're going to go all the way back to module 1 and think about the place value chart and where those numbers fit and what their values are. So if we remind ourselves what a place value chart looks like, we can think about placing our numbers on here and seeing the value. So if you have scrap paper at home, you can feel free to make your own place value chart and plug these numbers in on your scrap paper throughout your homework, and that might help you, especially with the expanded form. So just as a reminder, we've already learned hundreds, tens, ones, and now in module 6 we are starting with this decimal tenth. Now we heard tenths a lot when we worked with fractions. We're now just writing it in a different form. So if we see a number that looks like this, we have the number 2 and 4 tenths. Our whole number is 2 and we have 4 tenths left over. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start by cubing the directions. Draw discs to represent each number using tens, ones, and tenths. We're going to cube the word draw. And what are we going to draw? Discs that represent tens, ones, and tenths. Then show the expanded form of the number in fraction form and in decimal form as shown. So I need to show expanded form in fraction form and decimal form. And then the first one has been completed for you. That's on your homework for you to look at. This is an additional example. So if we look, we have 5 tens, 3 ones, and 7 tenths. The first verb tells us to draw discs, so to represent the tens. So I have 5 tens. I'm going to draw 5 discs. And label those discs that they're 10. Each disc represents 10. Then I'm needing to draw the ones, and I have 3 ones. So I'm going to draw 3 discs. And just like I labeled the tens, I am going to label the ones with a 1. Then, my last step is to draw the tenths. And I have 7 tenths, so I'm going to draw 7 discs. And just like I labeled the tens and ones, I'm also going to label my tenths. Notice that I had to make my discs large enough so that I could easily write inside them and someone can read what I wrote inside. It's not smushed. So far, I've drawn the discs. My next action word is to show the expanded form in fraction and decimal form. So first, I'm going to do fraction form. So I need this all to equal 53 and 7 tenths, or that's how we'd write it in fraction form. So first things first is I need to multiply each digit by the place value it's in. So I have 5 times 10 3 times 1, and 7 times 1/10. Now each one of these is a step, so I need to put parentheses around it. Now I actually wrote that 1/10 as decimal form, so we will count this as the decimal form. And then I add together my pieces. When I put it all together, it still equals 53 and 7/10. Now let's write it as a fraction. The 5 and the 3 stays the same. It's still 5 times 10. It's still 3 times 1. But this time I need to write tenth as a fraction. 7 times 1/10. And I'm going to write the answer in fraction form instead of decimal form. Both of these numbers mean the same thing. We're just practicing writing them in different forms. So if I go back, I've drawn the discs, I've shown the expanded form in both decimal form and fraction form, and so I know I'm done. Let's complete the chart. The chart has different categories we need to fill in based on the number that they gave us. We have to put it on a number line, write it in a decimal form, write it as a mixed number in fraction form. We have to write it in expanded form, a fraction or decimal form we get to pick. And we have to decide how much to get to the next one. And by that they mean to get to the next whole number. So in A, the number they gave us was 4 6/10. So I need to put it on the number line. If my whole number is 4, then I know I'm working in between 4 and 5. So I'm going to count over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's where I'll put my point. I'll write the number as a decimal, 4 6/10. It's already written as a mixed fraction. And now I'll write it in expanded form. I'm going to pick to do fraction form because they said or. So the 4 is in the ones place. So I'm going to do 4 times 1. And the 6 is in the tenths place. So I'm going to have 6 times 1/10. And if I add that all up, it's 4 6/10. Now, how much do I need to get to the next one? I can actually use my number line to help me. So if I start where I put my point and keep going to the 5 would be my next whole number. So I could just count 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths. I would need another 4 tenths to get to the whole number. Let's try one more. They gave us, if we look at the number line, there's the point. I have to count over to decide what that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know my number is 24 5/10. And now I'm going to fill in the rest of the boxes. I can write it as a decimal and then do the expanded form. This time I'm going to do it as a fraction. The 2 is in the tens place, so I need 2 times 10. The 4 is in the ones place, so I need 4 times 1. And the 5 is in the tenths place, 5 times 1/10. But I need to do it as I said I was going to do it as a fraction. One-tenth. And if I put this all together, my answer is 24 5/10. And they filled in that last box for us. In order to get to my next whole number, 25, I would need to go another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths, and that's what they wrote.